it's important for us to make sure that we have the ability to be financially independent, but also understand that what we're chasing and creating this empowerment and knowledge, is also very important.
Welcome to The Path to Wealth, the show about well-being, fulfillment, and financial freedom. And I'm your host, Hannes Henschel. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Path to Wealth. I'm your host, Hannes Henschel. Today we'll be talking with Kaylee McMahon. She's the founder of Apartment Queen Investments. Kaylee is a true inspiration. She has worked hard to build incredible businesses that are changing the investment landscape for women. Kaylee launched the SheVest app to educate more women about investing and the importance of cash flow and big sister security. Additionally, she recently was awarded the Success Magazine Women of Influence Award alongside Venus and Serena Williams. Her heart is dedicated to empowering women through education, protection, and investment. When she isn't busy managing her companies, she volunteers for free dental work for those in need. She's one of the women to watch in this industry, and today we got to hear all about how she got here. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is so exciting. How did you get to be a Woman of Influence and Success magazine? Like, that's such a milestone, I bet, for you.
Well, it's interesting. You have to be nominated by somebody else. So I actually have a co-brokerage owner, if you will. Amanda's her name, Amanda Williams. And she focuses on traveling throughout the United States and now is building properties internationally as well. So she also lives in Mexico. But she focuses on training women through different programs that she has on how to make wealth through STRs. So short-term rentals, and then also some MTRs, midterm rentals as well. And so that's what she focuses on. So we have that in common as far as teaching women how to create wealth, using real estate. So her and I partnered up, and I went down to Mexico to visit her. We put together a retreat for women who wanted to be able to get away, connect with each other, learn more about myself and her. And after that trip, she actually nominated me for that award. And so I'm assuming, I don't see the data on the back end, but I'm assuming a couple of other people did as well, because she told me, now that I nominated you, now go put this on your social media so others know that you're a candidate. And then there was another round to qualify to be one of the top women who were receiving that award.
Nice. Awesome. Well, congratulations. And I want to hear more about the retreat in Mexico. And, what is it that you want to break down for women that makes a difference in their financial education?
A lot of it really has to do just to start, not even the breakdown part. It's just starting with seeing other women doing it. I mean, I was on a panel a couple of days ago and I heard that feedback is like, you know what, you're so young, Kaylee, and you're so, I guess the perception is well accomplished. I've got quite a bit to go, but other women see that, whether they're mothers or whether they're single parents or whether they're single women, whatever their status is. They said, oh, she's doing it, I can do that too. And so the first part is really just kind of like when I was a little girl, being involved with backpacking or being involved with going on adventures. My Samantha doll looked like me. And so I believe that I could do the same thing as well. So in real life, it's even more powerful seeing other women actually achieve the ability to support themselves, be able to speak articulately about their finances, and then also know what their plan is financially to be able to take care of themselves, to stay independent and to stay out of abuse, because when we don't know how to take care of our finances, that's when we walk into abusive situations. So it would just be the influence first. And then as far as the remaining pieces, it depends on where someone is in their financial literacy journey as to, if they would engage directly with me in multifamily or one of our affiliate programs that sometimes covers, basic finances or getting out of changing your credit score, for example. Depends on where you're at.
Yeah. And where did your personal financial mindset come from? Like, where did your journey start as a woman? Did you have a role model in your family? Did you have somebody who kind of took you under the wing, or did you learn it the hard way by yourself?
Yeah, the hard way. my family, it's very non-traditional. Let's just say that there's nothing about my family from the time I was born till now that meets, the idea of what an ideal family would look like. So really looking backwards, actually, I had to identify the reality that I was living, say, as a teenager, working for the first time, and realizing that actually there was lack of access on purpose to resources. For example, I wasn't allowed to open a bank account. I wasn't allowed to have a credit card. I wasn't allowed to, and it was bizarre because I had a job, right? And so it was the first example that I thought was normal of financial abuse in my life. So not only did I later look back and see that and go, oh, okay. So that's why I then later went into other relationships that also functioned in the same way, because to me it was normal. And then the way to kind of look back and see out of that took for me to create space and time to be alone, to live by myself truly and not be around the crowd of people that I was attracting for the longest time, and to be by myself and to really go to therapy and think through, why is my family this way? Why do my friends act this way? Why, and where do I want to be instead? And again, exposure to some people that I had met that were not genetically related to me in college, other people's parents, they kind of showed me a different lifestyle and how close their family members could be, and how, a guy that I dated long ago when he was 19 had a lawn care business, you know what I mean? And his parents were like, hoorah, go make money. And it was a very different environment that I grew up in. And so seeing the possibilities of what is out there was what sparked my curiosity. And then I did have somebody in my family who was like a mother to me, and she she never gave me self-limiting beliefs. That was something that my core family did give me. And she instead said, well, what are you up to now? Like, what are you going to go achieve? Okay, great. That sounds good. You can do it. What are you doing? Just very curious. And so that seed got planted that there were other alternatives out there, that I could do it. And then I just needed to go after it. And then there are a few other people along the way that also planted those same seeds, where they saw the go-getter in me, the entrepreneur, the lifelong learner, the certain things that I just am born with, that would then be able to help me to create whatever it is that I wanted to. And so then I put the skills and then the knowledge of that this exists together and started pursuing other alternatives.
Nice. If you don't mind me asking, what did it take you in terms of the process to have that personal breakthrough? Like, because you said you did have to remove yourself kind of from that environment, from those kind of people. Yeah. What gave you the perspective, to kind of maybe get a 30,000 foot view on what was going on? I'm like, wow, this might not be normal or not healthy. And how did you break that down for yourself?
It really started in college. Like I mentioned, was around other people's families. And so I would actually usually go home with them for Christmas or Thanksgiving, sort of like adopted families, if you will. And again, just saw that they were very different in the way that they treated their adult children like real adults, that were fully capable of being able to support themselves and fully capable of being able to create things. And again, just not having those self-limiting beliefs or limiting beliefs in general. And so seeing that was, I guess, that moment where I said, okay, well, what I'm living right now isn't really ideal. So I had the opportunity to go create this for myself. And for a while that was misplaced. And I thought that meant I had to go create a family that would then, turn into that. But I realized it starts with me. It really starts with me and how I'm living and my example and what I am creating that, emulates all of this. And then, later on, if a family is a thing that I want to create, that will just be a part of their lives. So it was just influence from other people's parents.
Yeah. There's a lot of reflection in this. Like I could see that be a very long and maybe at times a painful process, right? Because you have to really break it down and I find myself there too. What are the patterns that are running from family? And then, how do we break through in terms of mindset, and how do we break those beliefs that were kind of planted in ourselves? Yeah. Did you beyond the one family member that you mentioned, did you feel like there were other individuals or maybe mentors beyond those families that spoke life into you?
Not until I was seeking them. And I didn't know I could seek them, I suppose. One of them, I purposefully or intentionally, I suppose, got to a place where, again, I lived by myself. I decided this is what I wanted to create. I didn't know the vehicle I was going to jump up on to create that wealth, to create that independence. I just kind of discovered it by meeting somebody else who wasn't quite a mentor, but they did influence me at first to realize that, if I wanted to create financial independence for myself, if I wanted to teach other women how to do the same thing, it all started with my housing, essentially, being able to have a clean space where you're not influenced by others that tell you how you have to dress or live or whatnot, and then be able to kind of go from there. I wanted to do that with single family flipping. And so I was already involved in that, and then ran into somebody who was doing it on a mass scale. And so it just made so much more sense. I knew I could make impact faster. I knew that I could get people's attention, because you do something that I guess is seemingly, out of everyone's realm of possibility, which is not true. I mean, not that anyone can be a multifamily operator. It is very hard. But as far as being able to be an investor and get into this kind of wealth creation, everyone can do it, especially with a few other offerings that are now available out there for non-accredited people. So it was really, just the influence. And then later on, when I started seeking after that first accident of a person that I ran into, creating celebrity by doing good, having multifamily as the vehicle that they were using doing it. I saw myself in that person. And then I was able to meet people that they were actively doing business with, because it's very important if you're going to listen to somebody and get an influence to create something that you want in your life, that you have to go engage with someone who's actively doing it, not someone that's just on stages. They've got to be active. So I was able to meet a couple people that were very active and ended up really liking me for some reason. Later on, I found out why they did, because again, they got a lot out of seeing someone really grow. And they at the time also, I kind of have like a big, the way I think is very big. I think in terms of like large ideas and 30,000 foot view as a natural person. That's how I think. So I tended to challenge them as well, where they decided, hey, we're only going to do mom and pop kind of construction, mom and pop management between my wife and I just believe in scale. And so I kind of pushed them a little bit too. So they got stuff out of it for sure. But that would be the second group of people, I suppose. And even now, the one that I first met that influenced me or inspired me, that person has retired and moved overseas and does all kinds of other different things. And then kind of through partnerships, mentors, junior people, I suppose, that are operating like what you see behind me here, but from the Philippines. So he doesn't need to be there, but he knows what it takes to do the supply chain. He knows what it takes to have internal management, all that. And so those two people I could call anytime, and they could help me out of a situation, help me with resources. They're just they've been a big influence even in the process of my first deal. I mean, it's scary and hairy the first time you do something. I took all of the income that I had from residential real estate, basically, and rolled it into earnest money for an apartment, ended up being two. All these things were not planned. And I had a closing that was it wasn't timely upon needing the earnest money to be due. And so I just was going to lose everything that I had started to create as a reputation. And these people believed in me enough to actually make a loan to me for a week. And then I had the closing and I paid them back promptly. But I was blown away that they would even do that for me, because people in my own family won't even let me borrow their car, So I have created a set of friends that have become family for me, which has been incredible. But yeah, it would be those two people that to this day still, I mean, even when you go through that first deal, even sometimes now, he had me print off a congratulations, you have closed certificate to put on my fridge. And he's like, look at that every day, see your name on it, you will find a way. And I mean, he was right. It got hairy a couple times, but I figured it out, and also he wouldn't hear from me for a while. And I like to do this to other people if they'll accept it. It was hard for me to accept because of my lack of self-worth at the time. But when you have that little guy in your head or little girl in your head, that's those self-limiting beliefs, you need someone to call to say, okay, here's what's on my mind. Here's what's stopping me. And that person can help you to burst through those things, because you're not alone. And at the end of the day, whenever somebody, you're reaching out to them for help, maybe they don't know the answer, but they know someone who knows the answer. So really every moment I've been able to stop every moment I've been able to reach out and ask for help, that's been the moment that everything changes and success happens. And so those would be the circle of people, I suppose, that were the second influences in, you can do this and I'm going to help you do it.
Nice. This is so awesome. And one of the things that came to my mind as you said is, so you're talking, obviously we all have that little boy, little girl kind of voice, or imposter syndrome, all kinds of things going through our head. One of the things I like that you said is, keep the goal in mind. And he made that for you. It's like print it and put it on the fridge. You every day you're looking on it. Congratulations, you have closed, and that's so establishing that in our mind. But then also, how do we go beyond the misconceptions that have been planted? And I'm sure you now educating other people on their own financial journey. What are some of the most common misconceptions that people kind of throw at you? Or maybe there could also be excuses, why they can't be wealthy, despite you already showing them that you're defying the odds.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things, because I cater to women, right? It's one of the biggest things that I hear a lot. And again, why we wanted to create the app, why we want to have our investor quarterly reviews that we do. We do have it hybrid online and over Zoom, trying to always cater to the mom that's got kids that maybe can't go to a 3-day seminar, needs to get a babysitter just to go to network, et cetera. The biggest thing that I hear a lot is, I've got to get my kids to soccer practice. I've got to feed them. I've got to do whatever it is to be a mom, and actually on that panel a few days ago, there was a lady named Melissa who made me just so, I like to use the word Twitter-pated, like just so happy to hear her that she's got several children. She's married, and her brother and I did a deal together in multifamily. And she had said that was the moment that her brother Tyler said, well, look at Kaylee. She's like 10 years younger than you. I don't know why, she's not making excuses, and she started with nothing. So it also sometimes takes for the men in this industry to also pump us up as well, to let us know that we can do it. And almost it's kind of dumb because we should give our own self permission. But when you're first new, you kind of need a little bit of pump up, I guess. But then she had said that was the moment she decided to make a bigger effort to, find a mom group where then she could get a babysitter covered, or where she could negotiate with her husband as far as like how their schedule is going to work, so that she could make it very important, or prioritize, I suppose, in her schedule, that she would get involved, she would network, she would learn, she would raise money, she would do whatever it took to do this for herself. So that's the biggest thing I hear is our kids or our family life being prioritized over our own career.
Yeah. How do you help women navigate the conversation when they want to evolve, when they want to grow, but maybe their husband is kind of in the rut in his ways, and he doesn't really see the merits of it yet. And it's like, why are you rocking the boat?
Yeah, that does happen for sure. So it helps whenever, so we like to raise money from individuals, and then also couples, because I've dealt with a couple scenarios where you've got the man calling me and saying, hey, I've got $1 million and I want to invest. I'm like, great. Does your wife know what you do for a living? And he's like, no, and she doesn't need to, doesn't want to, doesn't whatever. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. At least let's give her a login to the same software so she can see all the reporting. She can see, when we have a fire, flood, blood, death, things that happen, and how we get through it and still make it profitable. The learning curve is what makes it to where the couple is then empowering each other, really, because things happen. People go to the hospital, people lose their legs, and if you don't know what's going on, that is financial abuse, knowledge being withheld from being able to make those powerful decisions to keep wealth going for future generations. So when it comes to one thing that I'm used to, like I just explained, I just typically will not take money from individuals that don't want the women in their life to be empowered with knowledge, and therefore financially, they're just not a good match. But on the other end, with women who want to get going and maybe their husband is fearful of it, a lot of it has to do with education. So that would be someone that it's like, okay, call me, let's get on a 15-minute call. There's a couple of very short books and webinars and things that are out there to just get your mind in this mindset of why would you do this? And how does this type of investment compare to all the other different alternative vehicles that are out there? Pros, cons, risk, rewards, etc. And then also to meet other investors who are already investing in the type of asset, like I mentioned earlier. You want to find someone who's already doing what you want to do, and they'd be able to, okay, tell me the worst case of what would happen. And that's kind of all you need to know is like, what is the worst case that could happen? And if that, if it's your last $50,000, your last $25,000, don't spend it. We typically won't take more than 10% of someone's net worth. So you got to know your risk profile and then really be involved with those that are already doing it. And then get educated at least to a basic level of like, what is this? How does this work long term? And so some of the resources we have help with that. We do we do work with a couple of IRA or retirement companies. That's been a way that a lot of women have decided on their own, well, this is my pre-existing account from another job. And so I'm going to use my funds to do this. And I mean, he could disagree. And sometimes that's happened. And then what she'll usually do is she'll go find a group of women and then say, okay, well, I can squeeze in 10K. Can each of you do 10K? And let's just own one LLC together and do a try it out investment, So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And that's essentially what we're doing with syndication. But that's within a company. If you have a group of friends that, I started investing with $5,000. I did not have a lot of money to get going. And it was for me in a retirement account. But starting small, starting in a reasonable way where the other partner could see what ends up happening, because that's really the fear, is that they've just never done it before and they don't understand it. And there is a lot of education to really understand like the finance, the asset management. Like there's so many books that I'm always training myself and reading to really truly understand it. But unless you're going to become an operations person or an asset manager, it's not worth 5 years of your time to figure it out. So knowledge, start small. And then if he's like, no, you're a human, you can still partner with maybe even family members or some girlfriends that are like, we have an investor club where we put women together so they can invest with each other. Nice.
So when you say start small, but at the same time, you said that you only try to take 10% of people's net worth. If in multifamily syndications, usually the minimum checks are around $50,000, which 10% would be like a net worth of $500,000. So I think that's already quite a hurdle for many people. How do you help them get going on a smaller scale? What are the kind of investments that you can turn them to?
Yeah, so that's a common challenge. Very common. 88% of the United States, as of 2021 in February, I think, 88% of the U.S. population was unaccredited. And I don't know what the breakdown is of those people who are sophisticated, meaning that so they have no investor status, is 88% of the U.S. population. I'm not sure the breakdown of the 88% that have substantial business knowledge. Those people typically qualify for certain types of investments that have a 50,000 minimum, but it's usually they would have the net worth usually. But there's also this gap of people, most people in the United States, it's all I can really speak for, that can't access these investments at all because they don't have the 50K. And when I first did my first deals and I didn't know anything, I didn't know what I was doing. I took 25K for the first time just to like let friends and family in. Hey, let's get started somewhere. And even now that problem still perpetuates. And so what I did was I fought for 14 months or longer than that to figure out a way that we could raise money in a format that you didn't have to be sophisticated or accredited. You didn't have to have any kind of status. You could just be a human, you could have a pulse. So this is something that's highly regulated and it's called crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is something where you're able to raise money from usually the internet or a crowd of people. And they typically use the collective knowledge of the crowd to be able to vet that person. Hey, have you invested before? Do you understand this investment? They can all talk to each other online, on social media, in their groups, however they want to do it. And then also we obviously try to put our resources to the public so you can see all of our past investments that we've done, our past exits, and then have a page for this offering that would walk you through our past exits and the model and what we're doing here. Like, what kind of an impact are we making? Why would you invest with us? When you do invest with us, what terms are you getting? All the information, we try to make it very transparent and kind of, I don't know the best way to say this, but put everything in layman's terms to make it make sense, to a fifth grader, if they wanted to invest, because I think that we should all be able to access these types of investments. So what we did with this crowdfund was we made our minimum investment $5,000. And I just did that because that's how I got started in my 20s. So I thought, okay, well, we could figure out a way to scrounge up, $5,000 to $10,000 again from your IRA, a little bit from yourself, from your friends, putting it together. And so this is new. So if anyone that's watching this later is familiar with a crowdfunding platform named Kickstarter, Indiegogo, there's a couple others out there that have a loan-based or finance-based, well, it's really a lender-based crowdfunding, or the other one was more of a, I guess, charity-based or giving-based crowdfunding. Ours is an equity-based crowdfunding. So that means those that give us funds are actually receiving shares in the company and equity ownership of the company. Those are called securities. And it's just now been feasible to be able to do this in 2021 because of COVID. At the SEC changed law where we're able to raise 5 times the amount. It used to be $1,070,000 max. And now it's 5 million. And actually that's even gone up because of inflation adjustments because of the time value of money. So anyway, we're able to raise about $5 million. And so that is so much more feasible for these large real estate projects than obviously $1 million. So that's our newest thing that we have added. As of this weekend, we finally have all bank accounts added. The platform should be going live like today-ish, but it's been quite a journey because you've got 3 layers of law to get through. Whereas when we do our other offerings, a 506B or C, that is under an SEC law only, Regulation D. And then you usually have a securities attorney that will help you to put those offerings together. And the requirements for an offeree is pretty loose. I mean, honestly, like, are you a felon? Nope. Raise as much money as you want. That's just pretty much it. So with crowdfunding, we have the layer of local business and tax law. So here in Texas is TVOC. Then we also have the SEC law. Then we also have FINRA / crowdfunding law on top of that. So there's a lot more where we've had to audit like all of my bank accounts. We've had to audit personal financial statements. We've had to basically make sure that everything matches up to what I'm saying that we've done. And then we're allowed to get it all approved once it's compliant. And then put it publicly in a public forum where you can see all this information and then raise money from, like I said, my grandma. And that was the idea. This crowdfund is actually named after my grandmother. Her name was Verna, so it's called Verna Fund.
Awesome. That's amazing. What a nice personal note. So you said you have to be a human being with a pulse in the United States or outside the United States?
So I believe it can be anywhere. And the great thing about me saying this, because it's not that you're holding me to like if I was illegally saying something different. So this isn't, we've taken foreign money through Regulation S. We've taken foreign money through like EB-5. We've done some other things. This is not that. This is basically just a web page that's online. So the way that we went through Silicon Prairie as our portal, if you don't qualify, you will not be able to access the page, essentially. So I know that when we do a Reg S offering, that we have to actually make it hidden to the United States because we can't raise money from U.S. citizens on the Reg S. It has to be foreign investors only. So again, the landing page that we use would cover if you can't access it, you can't invest. And then on the back end, once you log in, also if there's certain requirements that you don't meet, you wouldn't be able to invest. But basically, our goal with this crowdfund was to take the generalized U.S. population and say, hey, if you don't qualify, we can get you qualified and get you into a mission-based investment. Yeah.
This is so awesome. And I mean, just to break it down, the level of detail and the personal learning curve you went through to get through those 3 layers of regulations is enormous. I'm sure your head must have been smoking.
You have no idea. I had to go through 4 attorneys because they all disagree with each other. It's such new legislation. And that took all my money, and I just wanted to fight to get this done. And so I pray to the Lord that this is worth it, because another thing, that's why I was saying this earlier and I didn't finish. Indiegogo and Kickstarter is similar to this, because what we've done is most of my peers would say, never in a million years would I do this, because now you have a bazillion investors and they all give you $1 basically. And then they're going to bug the crud out of you because they don't know what they're doing. And whereas an investor who puts in more money, they're doing it because they have it, they're comfortable, they understand the investment, they've done it before. So they're like, here's $250K, whatever, don't call me. You know what I mean? Just go double my money. They get it, And a smaller investor would be different and make it impossible for us to meet our goals. So what we've done is we've made it like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, where essentially when you invest under 25,000 mark, you're able to get access to still, our goal is 1.75x minimum your investment. So that's almost doubling your investment. And usually that's what we actually do. So I know that sounds crazy, but like that's typical for us to do. When you're under 25K, you go to the portal, you're able to access all of your K1 documents. So basically your tax documents that you need, you're able to access all the monthly updates that we do on anything that's happening and all the properties that are involved in the same pot of money. You're able to see any kind of recordings or videos that we have from our quarterly investor meetings, where we go over the full portfolio in that meeting, because you may not be local to Dallas. That's okay. And then pretty much anything that you need. Again, if you're getting paid, that's where you would connect your ACH to be able to receive your checks, or basically receive your money. And so other than that, I mean, that's kind of all you need, and if you want to invest more and you want to have direct access to the operations team, that's when we've said, okay, 25,000 more plus investment, that then you're able to, directly contact us. Yeah. So we've made it work for everybody.
Yeah, because otherwise, that's kind of the thing. If you have uneducated investors with a small amount of money, they might bug you more. And I think Tim Ferriss brought that up in his 4 Workweek book, that he had a couple of clients that actually didn't make a big difference in his overall revenue, but that bugged the hell out of it. So once he kind of cut those loose, and focused on the big non-complaining clients.
Yeah,
and I think
that's the Pareto principle all day long, like kind of backwards, where typically, 80% of your income comes from 20% of people.
Yeah. Yep. But then also, as we said earlier, then, you have that large chunk of the population that is being left behind. So kudos to you, to going through the trouble and taking that on. And also one thing I want to highlight is I see a common sequence in you. You put it all on the line for the next big step in your life. What you said about the single family to multifamily step, you said you put it all in, and even that wasn't enough. Somebody else had to back you up. And thanks to the relationships that you were able to nurture and build, and the trust you built, you were able to get it done. And now you're at that next step in your life. So, congratulations that you have that level of mindset and conviction to taking things through and seeing them through.
Thank you. I think I still have that quality, if you will, today. But as things get bigger, right? So as you make more revenue, as you grow, the risks become larger and they become more serious. So when you make a misstep, so it's not just my earnest money that I lose. It's not just investor money too. It's now our company's reputation. It's now, we can be like a fund of funds. So it could affect 2-3 other funds as well, which, it's a waterfall effect, So now that I've grown up a little bit, I've had some people in my life that are a little bit more operationally sound, at least how their mind works, right? So they don't just put it all in, they're like, okay, great. Come up with all your ideas. Let's run through the data and see what actually has demand, what makes sense, what we can scale, which of your 19 ideas before breakfast actually is going to work. And then we put it all into that one. So then that's when I can kind of just go to the moon. But I've had to kind of pull back a little bit with that kind of risk. And also as a potential, I don't have children now, but I would like to, as a potential parent, for example, I can't just keep putting everything out on the line. I can do that now, but so getting myself into a space where I can live the life that's on my vision board, I have to be a little bit more protective of myself and our business and everything that we do, really.
So for people that hear you and think that that's maybe too much, the kind of mindset you have, the action you take, that want to start slow, how do you usually take them along their personal investment journey when they're just getting started? So you do, obviously you basically build the vehicle for them to do it, but how do you show kind of the golden path to them? Like, because you have to build that vision for them. You mentioned the vision board, you have a vision board, but that's something to be nurtured. And I think people become investors once they realize they will only get the life that they really want. How do you take them through that process?
Honestly, it's been challenging. And the only thing that I've truly done to do that is by working on my copy, that's in our emails and that's in our social media. I've kind of pulled back on social media a little bit because I wanted to get all the legal structure for all these things that we're doing combed out, set, ready to go, because everyone just got teased basically with it not working so many times. But now we're ready to go. So the copy essentially walks them through why we're doing this. What is the emotional component of the difference that you're making investing with us? Then also when it comes to your life, you may be able to qualify and get going on something that can double and then next cycle quadruple, so like I mentioned, our goal is to double everyone's investment each time they do a deal. So if you're able to do that, then essentially you're setting your own retirement up, long-term versus, using a retirement account, which someone told me the other day, she goes, when I realized that doing one deal, and granted she was active, doing that deal, but it was not multifamily. It was like a fourplex or something. She's like, doing one deal in a year, this is a short, maybe 3 years, gave me more income than what was in my IRA. Then she's like, I woke right up, realizing that this is nuts and I can keep rolling it tax-free, depending on how you do things, and be able to quadruple, double, quadruple, et cetera, your income, that money over time. And then again, set your own retirement up. So I try to talk about what will be in it for them long-term, also short-term as far as tax benefits. That's something I think a lot of us discuss who are operators. That's something that we receive from doing these types of deals. And so do our investors. Not all of us give that benefit to our investors, but we do at our company. And then also talking about, like I mentioned, the emotional component of the difference they're making and bringing more women into multifamily. So my mission is to create $1 billion invested by, for, and with women by 2030. So they're going to be a part of that. And even by putting that out there like that, they're helping us to get the recognition that I just heard last week, where it's like, I'm watching you do this. I'm watching your other team members also be women executives. I'm watching your investors that are women get going at a younger age. I'm watching. And so it actually starts to influence the industry. And that's something I've noticed, that all the other males in this industry have started a female panel, a female episode on their podcast, just something, or one of them, Brian, I forget his last name, his daughter works in his company and she's like the brains behind the operation. He started promoting her more and kind of putting her face out there more. And the more that becomes normal, I think the more that we get to change the industry together. So that's a lot of, I think, why investors invest with us. One thing that gets confusing for others is the obvious benefit, like I mentioned, is like, let's double your money. Let's keep doing that over time and again, give you the tax benefits. But essentially, it's the emotional appeal of why that's important is being able to retire early. Typically, out of the 400 investors that we've had, at least the majority that give us the feedback, not all of them like surveys, but those, I would say that they are on average able to retire about 10 years early. And those are limited partners. Those are not us active partners. Us active partners, if we're going to scale a big business, that number could vary widely, but these are investors that typically are like, I'm a dentist and I don't have time to go flip an apartment or whatnot. So it's the impact of being able to have more time created to focus on your why, and so that's essentially FI, or financial independence, where you can then do what you want with your time. If you want to be a surgeon, cool. If you want to go travel the world, cool. If you want to meditate with monks like I do, cool. Like whatever it is that you want to, now you have time before you die. I mean, if you read this awesome book called Die with Zero, one thing that woke me up was, oh my gosh, the average person works their life to literally pay taxes. So let's say it's a better way. If you work your whole life and the average retirement age is 55 to 60 years old, I know it's changed a little bit, but typically if you look at the amount of taxes that you're paying having active income, typically you're working 10 to 11 years of your entire life just to pay taxes. If you look at the total you pay in taxes over your life. So these investments give you the ability to reduce or eliminate your tax burden because of having a K-1 income, which is the tax document you get investing in these, then also making an impact in your community and also being able to retire early and create time to chase whatever your why is. So that's really what I try to focus on in our copy. And then I don't know if this statistic is or is not common, but 1/3 of individuals, so women also, are abused. And then 98% of those, so pretty much all of them, are abused financially because once you're controlled in one way, it's so easy for you to be told you can't have access to the checkbook. You don't need to know what's in the accounts. You don't need to know how I'm, putting my tax documents together, or if I have offshore accounts somewhere, or any of that kind of stuff. And so it's important for us to make sure that we have the ability to be financially independent, but also understand that what we're chasing and creating this empowerment and knowledge, is also very important.
Wow. Now you dropped the big package, but unfortunately we're running out of time. I would have loved to dive in, especially the part with the monks. But I always like to ask one question at the end. What does it mean to you to have a life well lived?
Have a life well lived. That's something that I'm trying to really iron out, now. And it's so multifaceted. A multifarious life, I think, is very important to me. So, someone, to me, because I'm a lifelong learner, I'm someone that maybe confuses people because I know a little bit about cars. I know a little bit about real estate. I know a little bit about technology. I like to study artificial intelligence and understand how that is going to change our future and how it's used, and implement it now. There's a lot that I like to learn. So whether it's like a physical life that I have, at the gym and eating well, or whether it's, again, pursuing these other things that I like to learn about, I like to have multiple areas of study and passion. And the more time I have, the more I'm able to really go after these things. Like I love to read, for example, and I wish I could knock out a book a week, but being in your business and having meetings with people sometimes takes precedence while you're building. So really just having a balanced life. And so part of that too is health, wealth, friends, family, love, where you're going to go and whose life you're going to change. And so I'm always thinking of those things, and a lot of health, wealth, friends, family, spirituality, where you're going to go and whose life you're going to change. So spirituality was something for me that was like, there's nothing there. I grew up Catholic, didn't get it, wasn't enrolled. I just showed up, and so spiritually understanding myself and other people has been a big part of my journey to add to that kind of whole rounded person that I'd like to become. Ideally, working myself out, or how do you say this? Building a self-running business where I'm able to take myself out of the business to be able to focus on these things. And again, being able to speak and give vehicles to make it easier or more convenient for women to be able to create wealth for themselves. Those are things that I'm very passionate about. And the more time I have, the more I can do that.
Wow. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like we should get back together in 1-2 years and see wherever you've taken this. You will have to come back to the path to wealth. You're like a well-rounded guest here, and I'm very happy to have you back at some point.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and patience while I've found my new place after I moved.
Thank you for joining us at The Path to Wealth. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out our upcoming guests and be sure to share it with all your friends and family that want to take their life to the next level of wealth.